right, welcome to the Grace Hour Show, a Christian program that takes a dive into our daily challenges and helps us learn our faith in a practical way. My name is Robbins, and I am joined by my friend and Pastor Pete Westera, and we're here in the studio today, and we are going to be talking and really ending our week. This is a recording, but ending this week with this great subject about Christians and work. What does the Bible say about work was the beginning of the week. We're ending the week with what does it mean or what is it like to be a Christian business owner? And Pastor Pete, for all those who maybe don't know, I can say just a little bit. I being younger than you by just a bit, us both being so young. And the observation I've had over the years, watching you be a business owner and seeing how you conduct yourself, raise your family, balance work and ministry, that's something that we want to talk about today. But really, we want to ask you and maybe put it before the audience today. We want to hear from you. Share your testimony of how it all started. Where was God's will in this? How did God bring you into the decision that a business and being a business owner was what was right for you? So we want to hear it.
Yeah, and I feel like you have the same testimony, right? Just based on your life and the decisions you've made. So I want to hear from you. So you're not getting away with this.
I'm putting it in your court now.
Yeah. Actually, the truth is, my journey, there's two parts to my story about my business. The first is that I owned my business a long time. And the reason I owned my business is because I was desperately wanting to be successful. I mean, every bone in my body wanted to be the man, have employees, have money, drive a fancy car. I mean, every part of me, that was all my motivation. I didn't know it at the time, but I definitely was very driven, massively driven for success. But then, and in doing so, really pulled away from God. So I grew up in the church, and my mom was a very spiritual person. She's passed away, but I pulled away from that in my 20s. Really from age 20 to 30, I was really heavily active, in building this business and desperate, working extremely hard, needing it very much. But then, by the time I hit 30, something was wrong, because I was experiencing success, or at least some success. My business was slowly growing. I knew that we were going to be successful. We started, making money, and it's just difficult. It was difficult for me to be satisfied. That was one of the things that I would have to say I realized. I still remember walking on the beach with my wife. She was pregnant with Jesse, my second. Wow. So this is 2000 and 2000. She's pregnant. We're on a beach in the Caribbean, and she's calling me out that I'm never satisfied. And we were on vacation.
Wow.
And I'm always saying, well, next time we're going to get the bigger hotel or the bigger room or the bigger car. I mean, I was plagued with it. So this nagging little voice, I used to call it my Sunday school voice. You were brought up this way. We were told.
And you can't get that voice out of your head.
I couldn't get the voice out of my.
Thank God for that voice.
It's I say this to teenagers all the time. It's it's going to be hard for you to find satisfaction in this world. It's going to be very hard, and that's what happened. I mean, it's like a typical story, but there was a hole in my heart.
Yes.
It really was. Now, I still spent a couple of years trying to fix that. In business, you make business decisions, and I tried to fix it multiple different ways. But I remember even taking a Bible college class in 2002, and I remember I decided to start tithing in 2000, which was a little bit unusual for me because I was 1 foot out the door, barely going to church, you know what I mean? But I just decided maybe that'll help.
Yes.
Not even so conscious of my emptiness, but knowing that if I keep on this road, it's not satisfying me now, and it's never going to satisfy.
It's not sustainable.
I knew that. So I definitely was really desperately lost in a sense. And then actually in 2004, I was deciding to become an atheist. It was so lost. Yeah.
Wow.
Which didn't work very long. I mean, that's a hard sell, for someone that was shown life and shown true Christians. I would say true. In my life growing up, I had real Christians, very weak people, but beautiful Christians in my life, many of them. So, finally, really, God grabbed a hold of my heart. And the verse that I contribute to this is, in my life, Psalm 106:15. It's my favorite verse. I have it on a plaque in my office. Mm-hmm. And it basically, this is God's grace in my life. I think God looked at me and said, this poor kid, if I don't give him what he wants, then he will be chasing it the rest of his life. He'll never stop. He'll be desperate until he gets it, right? And that's God's grace. God said, okay, fine, I'll give you what you want. I'm going to give you a little success. I'm going to give you a business. But then with it, I'm going to give you leanness. And what a beautiful gift from God. What a beautiful thing for God to say. Grace comes in so many ways in our lives.
Yeah.
And even to our demise, God will say, I'm going to give you what you want because you need to figure out that it's nothing.
Yes.
And that really happens. I mean, that really happened to me. I was not satisfied. So in 2005, God really grabbed a hold of my life that winter. And I really had like a Jesus moment in my driveway kind of a thing. And I made a decision. And being in business, I make decisions. We're used to making decisions and usually quickly. And we just said, that's it. I'm done. I'm gonna go
Wow.
follow Jesus with all my heart. And one of those decisions quickly was that I knew that I knew my drive inside of me to be successful. The one way that I thought that I could maybe handle it. Mm-hmm. And some of this is like naive. I just wasn't very spiritual, but I just made decisions that I thought would help me with my problem. Mm-hmm. And one of them was, I'm going to volunteer 2 days a week at the church and work at the business 3 days a week. I'm just going to divide my time, and that will help me. It's kind of like I'm eating ashes and it's not working, and I got to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem with eating ashes is that you don't know that they're ashes until God reveals it to you. And once you reveal it, you're like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else to feed my soul.
Yeah.
And that's really what happened in my life. I just started volunteering, and to my surprise, very selfishly, by the way, very selfish. Like I was here, like I'm here to fix me.
Yeah.
And then I found that Pastor Schaller is traveling all over the world. And I just said, I'll go with him for me. I didn't care about anyone in the world. I didn't care about Central Asia or anybody. Let me just go with him because I got to fix this.
Yes.
And I enjoyed receiving from him. He really helped me. He was feeding my soul. So, so that was that's how I didn't really make like this godly decision so much as like, I'm in pain. I need to fix it.
Yeah. And that's a journey, right?
Yeah.
And God used your business and what he gave you to really reveal himself to you.
Yeah.
What a gracious gift that was. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you didn't necessarily like map it all out. You would say like God was trying to get close to me, and the business was God's way of revealing the hole in the heart, right? Like, all that you could ever want on the beach with your wife, with a little baby coming. Like, could it be any better?
Yeah.
And yet you're here saying that absolutely it could have gotten so much better. And I realized that it wasn't the things that I had been doing by making money, acquiring wealth, getting the things that we thought would build our life on, it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, my story is similar in the sense that I was raised in a church, in this church. And, I think our picture of like our parents, we were like not quite sure or convinced that was the right career path,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Like I was like, I don't know if I want to because we watched our parents like quit college, right? So close to getting your diploma and like getting into your career and your 401k and so on and so on. And they like gave it up to go after Jesus.
Yeah.
It was like, and for us, we didn't have that same reckoning or like that moment where we had to decide for Jesus yet. We were kind of in the formative years, like watching and observing. So we had to be convinced. So for you, it was like God gave you that business to be convinced. I think for me, that convincing already happened. And now it's more like I'm on the other end of that. Like I went to Bible school and never like thought I would have a business. You know, it was kind of like, here, it's given to you. That is a possibility that, you know, God gives us any possible career that could be more than just like missions or ministry within the church. There's more to it. And I think that's maybe my story is just simply like watching people like you manage their life and making these decisions really is what separated and help us distinguish like, okay, the business is important, but like, what is it? What is all this like volunteering at the church all about? Why am I having to possibly go on a trip with the pastor to see what life is about? And I was thinking like Luke 5, remember Jesus comes to the disciples. He tells them to cast on this side of the boat. They catch the fish and he says to them, from now on, you're going to be catching men, right? And there's like a career change, right? And that's kind of like what we're all looking for. If it hasn't happened yet, we pray it does. And then for those who have had the career change, right? Basically meeting Jesus. Yeah. That's it.
I love that.
You know, so I was, you know, this, what do you think? Like the American dream isn't what it used to be. I think the American dream today is the dream of leisure. Like, everyone's working so they don't have to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the whole mantra in culture.
Ease. Yep.
And so I think the idea of being a business owner is even like the epitome of it. It's like, oh my God, I can get to the top, be a boss and not have to do anything and have leisure as my new world. But like you were testifying to that. What do you think about that? Like, isn't that such a warning to us? Like that we would be so idle. And like Proverbs talks about it, right? Like the idleness of man, there's no bread in chapter 12. Wow. Like there's, so, you know, clearly the devil has a strategy in this for us, right? Yeah. And how do we like, so in your testimony, talk a little bit about like, okay, you had a pastor who like invited you on a trip.
I don't even think he invited me. I just bought a ticket on the same plane.
You had a wife who would like, you know, calling you out, right? Perhaps you had a friend, maybe some circumstances. Why was that important to get you to turn? You know, like, are those things we should be looking out for when we're trying to make these decisions in our business?
You know, I wish I knew like the answers to some of your questions, because I, you know, for me, it's such a God thing, you know, like it's not so much about me or my decisions or who I was hanging out with, you know, but to your point, you know, like I tried multiple times in my life to be like my mom, like what you said, but it doesn't work that way. You can't mimic that. Yeah. You know, it doesn't start with activity. It starts with something that happens in the heart. So here I am, and multiple times. I mean, I went to Bible college in '88 and got kicked out of Bible college. I mean, like, you know, I'm one of the very few.
We got that on. We got that on recording.
One of the few. Might be my greatest accomplishment to be kicked out of a
one of the few.
Orientated. No, but you know, multiple times I tried. Even in 2002, I took class again. You know, that was just another of many attempts of me trying to be this person these people who I respected. Like I knew they were real. Like I didn't have any delusions about them in terms of like that they weren't perfect or anything, but I did know that they were real. They loved Jesus. And I wanted to be one, maybe even like, but I just quit trying because it wasn't going to work. Yeah. And that's how I decided to become an atheist, because I was trying to be.
Wow. So that you went to the far end.
And I was like, I'm so sick of, and my whole thing was good for them. I'm just not that. I can't be that person. That was a big lie.
But maybe that's actually was the answer in a way, was your honesty. At least you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can't fit a mold or put on a mask.
Yeah.
I just, this is me. I have a hole in my heart.
Yeah, eventually, it doesn't work anymore. The lie you tell yourself, by the grace of God, at some point, it just doesn't work anymore. But I definitely found that once Christ grabbed me, everything changed. Everything just became easy in a sense. Not that everything's been easy since, but I'm just saying, like,
yes.
When Christ is in your heart, then all the decisions were just being made left and right. A lot of them. My whole life, my wife says, we were going this direction, you did a 180, and now we're doing this.
Yes.
And to her credit, she was like, okay, this is good, we're doing it.
Yeah, describe a little bit about like the second half of your business life. Your business life with Christ, let's say. Like you had a pre-life, we could say, like, and then there's this post with the Lord.
Well, to be honest, it was slow, painful change. It was a slow. See, you went to Bible college. I did not. I had like a carnal beginning, if you will. If you want to use that word, is a good word to use. I found it very difficult to be the same person. I would come here and be, yes, Jesus, but then I would go to work and be the same guy I always was. So to change the old habits, to change the old verbiage, to change the old thinking was actually, I found it hard. I remember reading a book.
I could see that,
Practicing in the Presence of God, Brother Lawrence, and that was recommended to me by somebody, and I read it, and sure enough, he's talking about washing pots and pans, or whether you're washing pots and pans or in the sanctuary, it doesn't matter. Be the same, be Spirit-filled. So I found that that was hard, to be very honest.
Yeah, like just discovering the integrity.
Yeah. First changing me and saying, I got to be real here and I got to be real there. It's got to be Jesus here and it's got to be Jesus there. So then the changing of me and then changing the way we operate and having it filtered down to my staff and then actually maybe even hiring different people or whatever sometimes, or not hiring a certain person because, you have some different goal in mind, So I found it very hard. I think it took me a long time to start really.
Yeah, like fine tune it.
Yeah, it did. It's like I would say maybe 10 years before I felt like I could say, okay, this was a great day in the Lord at work. So I can't tell you that that was like automatic. Some things, this growing in Christ, growing in grace. There's a process, and little by little, God is revealing things to you or convicting you on certain things, or how to operate, or how to deal with employees. So. And I don't even know if I could say that I fully got there because, I sold my business last year. So, but I felt good about it.
Yeah. And I can imagine like, let's just say I'm an employee of your business and you start coming to work like different, like with a different attitude and a different vocabulary, with different eyes and different hands. Like really, like you said, Christ touched your life on the inside. So they saw the business person that you were. Maybe it wasn't like so like wow, he was this really bad boss and now he's a good one, but it's more like he like cares about me, and he cares about like more valuable things in this company. And then that can make such an effect in a positive way towards your business. I think the same like for an employee too. Even though you're not the owner of the business, how do I come to work? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it started in my heart, can I affect the work around me through Christ in me? Can I affect my coworkers and my colleagues through Christ in me? And I was thinking like, what is, really like, what are we doing in this world? Are we here to work, or are we here to have Christ? And there's like a big difference, I think, like the order of operations. We say order of operations. Your order of operations on the second half was like Christ-centered, right? Like, would you say that like the ordering changed from like I, me, you know what I mean? Personal pronoun, like the drawing that we see with like, the cross in the middle.
Yes.
And me on the outside, but before it was really me in the middle, crossing everything that had Christ on the outside.
I had a tiny little cross somewhere in the corner of the page, right? Yeah, it's amazing, like I would say to you, it's impossible to change, right? In a sense, it's impossible to take self out of your life unless Christ is, filling you. Like that's how I always say I was the most selfish. I remember this thinking, this meditation. My vacation is about me. The cars I buy is about me. The house I buy is about me. The business is about me. The paychecks, everything is about me. My wife is about me. My kids are about me. So everything about me is self. I'm sitting in biblical psychology class.
Yeah. We're like,
and I'm dying.
Yeah.
I'm dying. Pastor
Nailed to the wall.
Yeah, he's like drawing a heart and putting a hole in it. Oh my
You're
gosh.
like, that's me.
He said, remember he used the word significance. We want significance. I was like, oh my Lord, how does he know me so? Like, that's how it was for me. So this is early. And, God's convicting us and showing us another way, and Christ becoming so real in our lives that even these things that are so hard can change. And I don't think, I always had it perfectly figured out, but I know my employees loved me. Like we cried when I sold my business last year. Like I cried, they cried. It was special. And also, I cared a lot about them. I think that was God. There's some things when that God puts love in your heart. Like I have that about teenagers. It's kind of weird that 19 years later, I still love teenagers. It's like not getting tired of it.
Yeah.
Like I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's because God put it in my heart. So the same thing happened. Like God put certain things in my heart, and they saw my life. Like I would be gone, like not just gone. I'm talking no internet, no cell phone, somewhere in Uzbekistan.
The business owner.
Yeah. And, they
unreachable.
Knew. They
not
knew.
on the beach.
Yeah. No, never.
In
no
a third
golfing.
world country.
Then you go to a gym, nothing.
Golfing.
There was none of that. 1 week vacation a year was all I ever did. And, with my family. But so they knew what I was about, even if we didn't always talk about it.
Yeah.
And, I just tried to care a lot for them. We didn't always get it right. We didn't always, have everything perfect, but we did our best. And I just asked, I remember when I went through a difficult time in my business, actually 2009, and the economy crashed. That was the first time that I actually went through a trial with God. Like, like every day praying, like every day, okay, Lord. I remember, Proverbs 3:5, like every day I'm reciting that verse 100 times a day. Like, that year, just was brutal in business. And I said, okay, so this is how you do it. Like with Jesus, hand in hand, go through a trial. And so I don't know, I don't know, but we tried and we learned and we grew, and Christ was very real in my life. So you become, Christ makes you this person, like I always feel that way. It's like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. Wow, I can't believe they're asking me to do this, or I can't believe someone said that about me. It's like, it's a little bit surreal because I think Christ is doing it, and you're just giving Christ the credit. He goes, wow, I can't believe they asked me to preach last week. Like, wow, what happened, So it's a Jesus thing, right?
Yeah, and that's like, you're talking about a shift, right? Like this is a shift that we use that term, and it was termed in biblical psychology that you're shifting from being the center to not. And this is across the board. You don't have to be a businessman to experience this, or a businesswoman to experience this, right?
Right.
Like we can be moms and dads, any age, shifting from self-centeredness to Christ-centeredness is revolutionary. It will change your company. Yes, it will change your personal life. It will change your friendships. Yeah. It will change your employment, like the way in which we work. Because this, as everyone's talking this week, work is from God. Okay, it starts really in the garden in chapter 2, that the Lord asked Adam to tend the garden. Yeah. But in 3, the ground's cursed, and we're working for a different reason. And so getting Christ back to the center and letting that mind be in you. Like I was thinking, Jesus, there's a parable in Luke, it's 13. No, 19:13. Luke 19, where he gives the 10 minas, and he says, "Be engaged with business till I come." And this opportunity we all have to be engaged with Christ as the center, but Christ gives us minas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like there is something tangible about it. It's not just like hocus pocus, like out in the air, nothing. Like, no, like the parable was that he gave each of them 10 pieces of valuable commodity. You know what I mean? Like a coin, like something that they could spend and invest or save. So to all of us, we can look, and I think that's really my testimony is more like I went to Bible school and I learned to work hard. Thank you, Pastor Mike Williams, who is in heaven.
That's right.
With your mom and many other millions of saints, right? Like, but he was my mentor.
Yeah.
So my dad, our parents are our true mentors, our original OGs. But then the Lord like gave me someone else. Yeah. And in my first year of Bible school, at the end of it, I got to work with him. And actually Pastor Bailey Norman did too.
Right.
And actually Pastor Justin did.
Yeah.
So he really established the foundation of like working hard. Like whatever your hand finds to do, you're going to do it with all your might, you know? And that laid the groundwork for me to receive what is like, I have a small building company now. So it was never something I set out to get, but God clearly like laid the foundation through hard work. Like, and I think now looking back on that time, for sure, the business and even just the responsibility of keeping it going would not happen if it wasn't for the valuable lesson of working hard. And like, maybe we can talk about that for a minute. Like, you know, we mentioned like the world's looking for leisure, right? Like the world's looking for, you know, let's have the whole week off. You know what I mean? Like let's make it a 3-day weekend.
Yes.
You know, can we check out early? Can I come in late? So what can hard work do for us? Number one, why is it important? But then number two, is there something, I think we know this is pretty obvious, but is there something as too much work, working too hard? Where's the right balance? And how, like, how did you find it in your business life?
Man. Well, let's start with the first one, the working part. What you said earlier about the world, how it's changed. America used to be about hard work. Now it's about getting an easy buck.
Yes.
Skipping over the hard work and the lessons learned by that, and getting quick cash outs and immediate, you know, satisfaction. And it's I've seen the same thing. Okay, but I always say this, you know, a prerequisite for a good vacation is hard work.
Right.
You will not enjoy anything if that's all you do. Like
you can't go sleep well at night unless you put in the good day of work, right? Exactly. And on the flip, there's nothing more enjoyable than a good night's sleep. When you put your head down on the pillow and you're like, I gave it my all today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so many ways. Like, you know, when you are busy, we're busy in the church. There's a lot of nights we give up. But when you're home at night with your family, it's like, wow, how much fun. You have kids, so you have to do it more. But you know, our kids are out of the house. But still, you know, like, or I have a day where I'm home all day and my grandson's running around. It's like the greatest day on the planet. There's no place.
This is why I've worked so hard.
Could offer me a villa in Bali, and I'd be like, no thanks. I'm just going to be home with my grandson.
Where is
like,
Bali?
Honestly, it's so much fun. Yeah, I don't. Like, you know, it's just. So I learned that. I learned that on my own. I just knew that I think I enjoy days off. I enjoy a night off so much. I loved going on vacation with my family. It was like a great week with my little kids, like with great memories.
So vacation is good.
Yes, it is.
It can be good.
Yes,
spending time with your family is.
But, you know, you have to learn. I had to learn how to have a vacation differently.
Yes.
Have devotional. Like I would read a lot. Like vacation for your body, for your family, and then for spiritually. Like a great time to sit on the beach and read books all day long or something, like, you know, like,
Sure.
and have great long devotional times. So, you know, even that I had to relearn. But I love hard work. I think it's God's way. I think Jesus, the word work is used by Jesus in the Gospels multiple times. He was very busy. He did not have idle time. He was always doing something. You know, I think that it's God's way. You know, it's in one sense you can say it's a curse, right? If you're getting money for nothing, no matter how you do it, whether it's through communism or through theft or through some kind of program,
Yeah.
that doesn't work for human beings. You got to work for it. You got to work for it. But to your other point, you know, I suffered from working too much, of course, you know, because I'm driven.
And we could say this basically for every man.
Yes.
Most men out there
Men
are
can
like,
easily do this,
we
right?
use work as a tool or a way to mask something, put something on the shelf that we want to avoid, something that we want to cover, and focus on work.
Yeah. So we have to learn these things. I had to learn it. And you know, there's hard work is great. Like I enjoy even working in my yard, you know, like I enjoy labor, you know, I enjoy meditating on something
with
in
your
the morning.
hands.
I use my hands.
Hands? What are you talking
proud
about?
of my calluses.
You use your hands?
Yes, let's go. Come on. You know, like construction, it's a beautiful thing. Dig a hole anywhere. Come on.
There you go. Why am I digging
you know?
this hole?
So, you know, I think balance is something we all have to learn, and God is amazing because he has the audacity to promise us peace. And there's very little peace on this planet and very little peace in people's hearts. But Jesus keeps saying it over and over and over again. You're supposed to have peace in your life. So I just think like work hard and know how to rest and know how to spend time with your family and know how to have a ministry. Like I am like, the greatest thing that ever happened in my life is that I found ministry. What a gift that was. I had no idea. I thought it was all just going to be laying down my life and, you know, like, you know, being a servant. And it is. But actually, what a gift.
Yes.
What a great thing that was to add to my life. From being, you know, I always say ministry is a great break from yourself. You know, it's like a great time. I didn't have a lot of time this weekend. I just spent the weekend with teenagers in Marlborough. I didn't have a lot of time to think about myself. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful break from yourself. Yeah. So Jesus is all about it. So balancing it, getting it right. Easy to say maybe, but I had to learn those lessons. You know, you have to learn how to be with your family, learn how to go to church, learn how to say no to the church. That's another thing. You could really, like I'm supposedly retired and I am extremely busy. I can't believe how busy I am. I was worried that I was going to have too much free time. I literally filled my...
You were worried about the leisure you were walking into.
I was.
Life
I literally
of leisure.
filled my schedule, still do with just helping people with construction
But isn't
projects.
that's so wise?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. I was thinking John 6, 27, Jesus says, do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. Yeah. So we're working, we're told not to work for food that perishes, but work for something God's going to give you. That sounds like kind of like, so I'm expecting we as a business owner or just any person working out there today, look for what God has going to give you and take that. Yeah. Take what God gives you and work on that. You know what I mean? First and foremost. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we would easily, hands down, like you were saying earlier, I'd rather just be about me and start with my food and my life and myself. But when we shift and realize Christ is here, now we start looking for what he's going to give us. And that's what it says in this chapter is that, like, it wasn't Moses that gave you bread from heaven. You know, because Moses and the fathers, they died in the wilderness. You know, like you forgot who gives you your bread. Yes. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think it's also that right order of thinking. Yeah. Like if Christ is first, like you were saying, Proverbs 3:5 was written on your heart. So there was your gift, what God gave you to help you in that storm of business, right? like the same we can apply to our lives, maybe in even a small business venture. You're like, you're working a day job, but you have a desire that God's given you. It can be godly. God gives us business. Jesus was like, I'm about my Father's business, like in Luke 4 and Matthew 13, when he came to his town, they were like, isn't this the son of a carpenter? Yeah. Like he was a man of work. Yeah. So when God gives us this, and let's say you're trying to start something small, like the dream should be that you're looking for what God's giving you. Like God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven, can be our prayer. And then we can see that if it is God's will, right? Because God's will for your life, you shared, was the second period of business ownership was Christ-centered, I would say, right? It's Christ-centered business. Yes. To the best of your abilities. You're like, yeah, I mean, it was, but it was. And then God led you to sell your business, which is like, that's like a whole conversation itself. I mean, you can get with Pastor Pete and talk to him and get counsel on how to sell your business if you want to sell it, or maybe not sell your business.
I learned a lot.
but you know what I mean? Like that was radical enough. But what it's saying is that you were looking for what God was giving you.
Yeah.
So God gave you mentioned a ministry after business life. So in all the stages of the shift, God is giving us something in our business, in our work. Yeah. And I think that's opposite to our original self-centered thinking, where it's I'm the one who's giving, I'm the one who's generating, right? Like it's me doing the energy, but really like the state of this world is decay, right? Entropy. It's just everything's in decline. Yeah. So why would I fight that? Yeah. When I got God giving me eternal bread. Do you know what I mean? So that shift like can really change your business life. And I think for me, that's what really happened. We had this little small discussion that maybe we can bring up about holding it loosely.
Yes.
Like, so when I got my business, it was just me and like a couple guys, we're swinging hammers. And then I'm like, I need help, right? Like I can't do this on my own. And Pastor Mike was encouraging me, my mentor was encouraging me, like, start teaching. You've been taught well, now start teaching. And then I found the passion of like teaching what I learned. And then I realized like, let's give this to other young Christian men. Like, let's let this business bless others. And then from there, as it grew, I realized like none of this was about what I did. It was all about what God gave me. And so I was like, I just need to be a good steward of what God's given me, right? Like the 10 minas.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it? Am I going to bury it in the ground, or am I going to go and work? I'm going to work hard. Okay, stick to the work. And it's like, 1 Samuel 2, like there's the sons of Hophni and Phinehas, Eli's sons. And then there's Samuel, right? He's like the one, the Lord says, the one, I will honor the one that honors me, and the one that despises me, I will, like lower him, And so we honor God in what he's given us, and he honors us. Yeah. And so it grows. And so, but then all along, I think for me, the struggle has been like, is this yours or is this God's? Like, that's always what it is. Yeah. It's always like, like we're playing this little tug of war with this piece of paper.
Yes.
And he pulls a little bit on it. I'm like, whoa, that's mine.
Yes.
And then I'm like, wait a minute. It's never been yours.
Yeah.
Freely given. Yeah. You have freely received and freely given. It's been grace all along, Raj. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit, maybe share your thoughts on like, how did you hold it loosely and placing it on the altar?
I have to say that was a very painful, another transition of thinking. Very painful, because it was my third child. I called it my third child because I raised it from this.
So you had Kaylee?
I had Kayland,
and I had Jesse,
and then my business. My business was 25 years old when I sold it. So I had it many years, and I loved it very much. Just full transparency. I mean, I always say about 50% of me wanted to get rid of it because I was in trouble. I started having trouble with my schedule. The youth ministry demanded a lot from me, but then the business kept growing. The more employees you have, the more you never really hit that dream where you go easy street.
Yeah,
that's a big
plateau.
lie. No, that doesn't exist.
You got to always be climbing.
I mean, I'm sure it does in some world, but I exchanged actual work, which I enjoyed, for problems and worrying. Like you know what I mean? Like I would worry about $50,000 payrolls.
Yes.
Or I would worry about some employee stealing from me, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or not passing a drug test. So to me, like that's a little bit of a lie, I think, in American world, where you reach some kind of easy street and everything is great. And that just never happened. I never found that. So part of me really wanted to get rid of it. But the other part of me, really loved it, especially because we were kind of on the downhill in terms of what we had to achieve, or, we had bought everything we needed to grow, and buildings and warehouses and trucks. So it was just going to get really easy for us in the next 10 years. But I would say to you that I wasn't always so successful in what you just described, the pulling the piece of paper back and forth. You know what I mean? I treated it, on rare occasions, I had enough, God was in me, and I had enough to say and admit, this is all God's. The
voice in your head,
strong day,
maybe your wife.
Yes.
Like, come on. Who are you kidding?
Or if I'm preaching from the pulpit, yes, it's God's, everything's God's. But I found it hard to live as if it was His. I am in control. I'm making all the decisions. It feels like mine. I worked like it was mine. So I never had this feeling. I struggled with always saying it's God. I had to remind myself. It's kind of like putting on. You have to put on God's thinking. You have to put on His mind and put on the way He operates. And it's not natural to me. So you just I have to always kind of be reminded in messages or in times, or when you're flipping out. You have to get settled in and saying, "Wait a minute, hold on a second. This thing was God's anyways." And during the whole process of selling, it really was very painful in one sense, but then also very much God.
Yes.
It wasn't really me. It was a miracle. I don't want to go into it because it does take too long, but it was really just I always say 10% of me said, okay, I think maybe I could sell. And then God did the rest. You know what I mean? I had a little bit of faith at a certain moment.
You took one small step of faith, and God was like, I got it.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And do you think that as you gave it to God, God gave you?
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like you lose and you gain, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, isn't that the principle?
You get this life and the next. And I say that in terms of knowing that you're in God's will. I mean, that's what this is about for me. Am I in God's will? Yes, I am. Wow. Holy cow. Wow. I'm 54 years old. I spent 40 years of never knowing what God's will was.
And here I am.
Heard people talk about it confidently.
Yeah.
Never really, I mean, I in the last 18, 19 years, I've learned about God's will, but then to really know, okay, peace, I got peace, God's will, we're okay, everything's fine. The end result didn't really matter because it was iffy. Is it going to be sold or not? Back and forth, but yes, no, negotiations, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I was so at peace. That's when I knew. I was like, I'm riding this wave right now.
Because normally you would be,
I learned, this is the lesson I learned, okay? This is what peace is. Peace is not, is it this way or this way? It's Jesus. I got peace. Everything's, I don't really care. And Justin said it last Sunday night, and I don't know if you caught it, but he talked about, the will of God. People are too obsessed with the will of God. It's all about them and their place in God's will. And it's not really like that. It's just finding Jesus and being content with whatever He decides and having just enough faith to say, okay, Lord, this is your show.
Yeah.
If it
You're
goes
the main
this way,
character.
Praise the Lord. If it goes this way, praise the Lord.
You're the main attraction.
If I got natural, I'd be like, no, I don't want to sell. I'd be freaking out all the time. But if I got really settled in and had peace about it, and we just said, okay, Lord, do your thing. And then the whole thing was such a miracle that we knew it was God,
Yeah.
So that's the giving parts of our lives, and we all do that. We're talking about business today, but everyone can have this conversation. God is always looking for us to take a part of our life and put it on the altar. And it's always a shock to us that it needs to be put on the altar. We had no idea. We thought we were doing good.
Yeah.
And we had everything was under control, and God
Well
is
managed.
revealing. Yeah, it's like I got it figured out. I got this Christianity thing down, and then all of a sudden God reveals you got to give this up, and that's our life. Pastor Schaller's famous message: if you have 999 acres, God wants the one last acre. Like all of your life. Congruency is the word that last year I read a message from Eugene Peterson that Christianity is like a violin, a Stradivarius violin, and then you have Itzhak Perlman and Mozart, and they're playing on stage, and you're looking at it, and you don't know what part of that is genius. Is it the violin, or is it Itzhak, or is it Mozart? Which one of them is producing this beautiful thing? And that's Christianity to me. Like the business had to become part of Christianity, spirit-filled living, finding Christ. Buying it, selling it, the whole thing, working, not working, too much working, the whole thing has to be Jesus. There has to be this kind of music.
Yes.
Now, I don't have it all figured out, but there has to be like a surrendering and little by little, you know what I mean?
That
could be
is
like
it.
Sports, watching sport. You got to give that up, like you got no more of that, a little less of that. Okay?
Yes.
Or whatever, I'm just trying to think of examples, but that's what Christ wants from us. And the more I think we live this way, the more we find life, the more we find Christ, the more we have peace, the more we are sure we're in God's will. So the more we grow. Some people get stuck, I think. I think I can get really stuck.
Yes.
Because I'm not willing to lay it on the altar,
Wow. What a topic, laying it on the altar. This is awesome. I mean, congruency and what you're saying. No matter if you're a business owner, you're a father of two, a mother of three. I hope that you heard this message today and really God spoke to your heart about these things. God has something to give us, right, in our businesses. And it's Him. It's just Him. We're going to be let's look for Christ in all of these areas and let it be congruent. That's what you're saying. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You know what I feel like right now?
What?
In business, you're supposed to be in charge of the meeting, and you want to dictate and ask questions. When you ask questions, you're in charge. In sales or in business meetings, you ask questions because you're in control. I feel like you just controlled this whole thing. You asked me all the questions.
I did.
I never
turned
even
it
got
on
to ask
you.
you a single question.
I couldn't talk about
just
myself.
Failed.
No.
All that business experience, and you just totally controlled me.
Well, I hope you guys see that today. That was a well-placed and well moved podcast. Thanks for subscribing. And please do more of it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and other platforms like Spotify. And be sure to join us next week at the same time for a whole new topic. Have a great day.